Welcome to Access to Art, a program produced by the Minneapolis Television Network to give you a look at the great diversity of arts we have in our fine city, from the big deal capital A art events to maybe the lowercase art events as well. We're taping today at the Midtown YWCA, where in the background there's the 15th Annual Women's Art Festival going on. There's music being performed, there's people getting together, maybe artists collaborating, and a whole lot of arts and crafts. And we'll speak with some of those people in a few minutes. Our first segment is about the West Bank School of Music, founded in 1970 by a University of Minnesota student who thought there should be a place where people could learn to play jazz, folk, and blues. Located in a boarding house in the West Bank neighborhood, the West Bank School of Music has been a critical fixture in the community for many years, providing classes, private lessons, and mostly a place for musicians to get together and learn more about what they want to do and what they can do with others. By the way, they used to host the world's largest marching guitar parade at community events around town. Access to Art correspondent Laura Stopyro recently went by the West Bank School of Music to speak with some of the musicians there.
Think of the history of the West Bank School of Music. Peter Strusko taught here. Butch Thompson taught here. Bonnie Raitt used to hang out here. Dave Ray, John Kerner. Think of all those great people. How can that not have a positive effect on you personally and musically, to have this great music available to you, to have these great instructors available to you to share their knowledge, their passion, and enthusiasm?
I never really thought that I wanted to teach until coming here and getting this job. It came as a total surprise, because when people come in and they are afraid to start taking lessons, or they're afraid to sing in front of people, it reminds me of my humble origins.
Wonderful old historic house that we're in was built around 1900. It was a 10-room boarding house for a long time. It's been converted to our purposes, so we now have 8 practice rooms and 2 offices. The school was founded by Warren Park, who was a graduate of the University of Minnesota. But Warren decided there was a great need for education in blues and jazz, and it branched out into folk music.
Kind of has an old feeling, you know. It was, I think that it was an alternative folk kind of place when it originated, and still has some residual grassroots kind of atmosphere to it.
Paul Renz, my mentor, my guru. I'm a devotee of Paul Renz, and I've been a student of guitar with him for 10 years.
Well, the mission of the school is to transform lives and community through innovative music education and inspiring performances.
I find it to be, first of all, tremendously challenging, but in a very positive way. I feel like I'm stretched musically every time I come here.
The organization has been around at least 37 years and longer, you know, depending upon whose reckoning you're going by. We are very much a nonprofit. It's key to who we are. We are a community organization. We're very active in the community.
The West Bank School, I think, has a little different philosophy. We like to keep our costs really low, because we're all about the music. Not tensing here, but your brain tells you in order to hit this high note, I need to squeak it out here.
What I can say to anybody that goes on a course of study, but particularly comes to a place like the West Bank School of Music, is you find an opportunity to explore what the proper place of music is going to be in your life.
You get to have this kind of quality of experience as an adult to still play jazz.
All of our faculty are, in addition to being pedagogues, they are also practicing musicians.
The latest show that I've been producing is called Intoxicating. It's a run at the Bryan Lake Bowl.
I perform as much as possible in the community in the Twin Cities. I tour every other year. Just recorded a new CD.
Even though I've been doing various kinds of music for a long time, I learn a lot every time I come here.
If you learn how to play an instrument, if you learn how to read music or how to properly sing a song, it's something that you can carry with you wherever you go.
It's nice to have something to do that's different than what you do during the day. It adds to your life and broadens your perspective.
When your iPod breaks down, when your internet connection crashes, when everything else is gone, you still have that music inside you.
Well, as we near noon, the crowd's starting to show up for the 15th Annual Women's Art Festival at Midtown YWCA. And a woman who inherited coordinating the whole shindig, Naomi Siegel, is with me. And maybe you can give me a handle on how you inherited it and how successful it's been.
Okay, I participated in maybe the 7th or 8th one. I make soaps, and so I was a vendor. And it was a wonderful event. This was back in the small days when there were maybe 20 vendors, and it was at Spirit of the Lakes Church. And the woman who was coordinating it at that point, Catherine Azoraminda, was getting ready to leave town. And I said, I don't want this event to end. It's so wonderful. If you leave town, let me know, and I'll, make sure that it keeps happening.
Oh, how many exhibitors do you have this year?
Well, I have 78 booths, and some of them are shared by 2. So I'd say somewhere up in the high 80s or up to 90 women, maybe.
Well, excellent. It's very impressive. It's a lot of fun. Great music in the background. Naomi, thank you very much, and hope to see you next year.
Thank you. We'll be bigger and better every year.
I was lost and lonely, believing
the Minnesota Artists Exhibition Program, MAEP, is a curatorial department of the Minneapolis Art Institute, whose primary mission is to show local contemporary artists in the MIA galleries. Access to Art correspondent Hamil Griffin-Cassidy attended an opening by Ta-coumba Aiken and spoke with the artists and a few others involved in MAEP. Laura Stopyro did the editing on this piece.
There is a certain spirituality that is emanating from the art that is taking over this room and creating a calmness.
Call and response is a long-time African tradition / African-American tradition. There's a call and people respond to it. As artists, we do the same thing. We interact with each other, which is still a call and response. Our ideas bounce off of each other.
On the surface, you look at the pieces and they look like just abstract Jackson Pollock type depictions. But as you move closer and you start to really focus in on the work, images start to emerge, and faces and big eyes with tears and people with serene expressions on their faces. Creates this sense of calm and well-being.
When I'm working with the paintings, it's about me responding to a mark, a line, and building up on it, something that might be in my head, but no theme, no anything. I just start.
The Minnesota Minnesota Artist Exhibition Program is an artist-run curatorial department in the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. It's dedicated to showing contemporary Minnesota artists in the contents of an encyclopedic museum.
All artists are invited to an annual meeting at the Institute, and at that annual meeting they elect a panel. That panel in turn selects exhibits.
We review about 100 applications a year, and from the 100 we select 5 exhibitions.
Once the panelists have selected the exhibition, it is then my job to help the artists get their exhibitions into the museum.
I guess I was just amazed that I worked on the color kind of alone, and to come back and see how the color relates to his other paintings, that I see the color that I used in the fabrics a lot in his other paintings, so that was a surprise that I was pleased with.
I really kind of can connect with the different layers and the different color patterns that Ta-coumba uses. And I think the faces that he depicts and kind of the rhythm patterns of lines that connects through all of the work is something that's quite inspirational. I feel like I'm kind of looking into a deeper kind of cultural tradition.
The things that I'm putting down are things that have been going through me, whether they belong to me or my ancestors or a friend or an idea or a feeling that's just coming through the room while I'm sitting there.
Ta-coumba, Seitu, and myself, we did a show here in the early days of the MAEP back in 1988 called Spirit House. We had access to the museum's African collection, and that was like playing in a toy house.
We are not curators. We try to let the artists rule their experience as opposed to us dictating the experience for them.
This all started as an experiment back in 1975, and this experiment has now been going on for over 30 years.
This is pretty incredible that the program has lasted as long as it has, over 30 years.
It's important for people to see what talent we have in Minnesota.
I've seen people that I haven't seen for 30 years. I've seen people that, I haven't met yet, but I'll meet. I met them now, and then things will grow and things will continue. Kids that are 6, that'll be 16, that'll be 20, that'll be 30, and then I think I might be done with it. But I'm going to 104, so we'll see.
Well, it's an extremely January-like Saturday in Minneapolis. It is brutally cold outside, and inside the Women's Arts Festival we find all kinds of arts and crafts, but these are particularly appealing because they might enable me to warm up a little bit. Sean, is it just savvy marketing to be here this Saturday, or do you do this all the time?
I do this all year round. This is how I make my living. And I knit these hats, I add all this fancy fiber to them, and then I felt them.
And what is the best-selling item?
So the felted hats are very popular.
And what's second most popular? How's that for a clever question?
I would have to say my cotton washcloths.
Really? Can you wear them?
No, but they make great stocking stuffers.
Things are just warming up here. Did they get a lot of traffic?
It's been very busy. I did really well here last year, too.
Well, I'm impressed, and I hope soon I'll be a little bit warmer as well if I can get one of those scarves. IFP Minnesota serves local filmmakers and photographers by offering classes, low-cost equipment rental, project consultation, and grant opportunities. Their McKnight Fellowships for screenwriters and filmmakers are opportunities for artists to get up to $25,000 for their project. Access to Art correspondent John Aker visited IFP to speak with the 2007 McKnight Fellowship Award recipients.
One reason why we've got such a developed film community here, I believe, is because Minnesota has such a generous philanthropic support base. The McKnight Fellowship is a vehicle that we use to support filmmakers in their endeavors. It's a really great encouragement grant for people to continue working in their medium.
What went through my mind when I got the call was, okay, I can eat this winter is basically or I can feed my family, basically.
It was one of the best phone calls I've ever gotten in my life because that is a good chunk of money and allows me to be able to make my next documentary, plain and simple.
Since then, all of my query letters have actually, you know, it says it right there. It's within the first couple of sentences. McKnight Fellow is really great.
The first McKnight actually got me my first writing assignment, too. Not the first one I won. I was a finalist in 2000, and I got me my first writing assignment. I didn't go to school. I don't have that kind of proper training. You know, I grew up in the projects. You know what I mean? I'm that kind of kid who, you know, I hand you something and you read it. First of all, if it's coherent, I'm happy. You know, second of all, if you're telling me, you know, I have enough skill to be a professional screenwriter, you know, now I'm dancing in the streets. And that's what happened to me with the first one. It made me realize, you know what, I can do this. There's this myth about black kids, you know, either having it or not having it as far as gifts go. You know, we're athletically blessed, you know, genetically superior athletically, and things like that. Well, I wanted to write stories about kids who have to work for what they want.
I make documentaries. I love documentaries. I always find that real life to me is much more fascinating than fiction. My first independent documentary film is called Venus of Mars, and it's a story that happened, as many of my favorites do, right here in our own backyard. It's about Venus, the lead singer of All the Pretty Horses.
I look for a good story, and I let it tell me what genre it wants to be or what kind of story it wants to be. I'm all about just finding that story.
We shot a low-budget horror feature with Mark Borchardt from American Movie. I tend to work with the same people on all my projects. I worked with really small crews.
What both of us do, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it's trying to figure out where the drama is, because that's what's going to keep people interested, and that's, you know, the story. That's what keeps the story moving. A lot of it's just trying to be at the right place at the right time, figuring out how much to shoot. You know, if I could, I'd be there with a camera all the time, but you can't do that.
It's my Rubik's Cube. No matter how good people may think my screenplays are, I still don't think I figured them out yet. I mean, I still got colors here and colors there, and I'm still twisting and turning, and that was the appeal to me, was how tough it is to crack.
To me, the beauty of the screenplay is that it has so much structure and form inherent in it that it's up to you to be very creative within those constraints. Novelists or poets, they write it, it's there, it's done. You're just the beginning of this really cool, you know, output where so many other people are contributing different things.
I've had a short film made at the AFI in Los Angeles, the Women's Workshop, actually. Beth Pakunis, she's Minnesotan. She applied with my script, Natural Born Salesman. It's a comedy about a door-to-door salesman who kills people.
I've had one short produced as well called Sunshine, and it was directed by Elizabeth Day, who is also a local filmmaker, and it was with an IFP Access grant.
I've never been interested in moving to Hollywood or anything like that. I was always more interested in just being a regional filmmaker and maybe supporting myself doing it. The jury's still out on that.
Our purpose and mission is to support filmmakers and photographers. Our film community is leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of communities in the United States.
I think a lot of times we kind of can get lost out here. People see us as being in the hinterland. You know, we're in the Midwest, we're not in New York or LA. And I think IFP does a great job of bringing New York and LA to us.
We have really been about training and business development and providing opportunities and networking with the national film community.
I'm glad we have it, and I hope we always do.
Holy smokes, we're wandering around the art festival, and who should I find but the Minneapolis Observer Quarterly's own Sharon Parker. What are you doing here?
Hanging out like everyone else, selling assorted stuff that I've made. And of course I have my Observer useful calendar here.
But there's a genuine anarchy to the aspect that you pay to get a table here and you put out free calendars. You're kind of getting the equation a little backwards, aren't you?
I sold a couple of purses so far, so we'll pay for the table.
Interact Center for Performing and Visual Arts gives people with disabilities the opportunity to learn from and collaborate with professional artists to create illuminating and challenging pieces. Interact's Performing Arts program recently collaborated with the Tootie Ensemble from Adelaide, Australia for a production of Between the Worlds, a musical in the tradition of West Side Story. Two young people from rival gangs fall in love and, of course, face the consequences. Access to Art's Beth Peloff attended both a rehearsal and a performance of Interact's and Tootie's Between the Worlds.
There are a lot of talented actors in the play. It's amazing to watch how they work and to learn from them.
Remember, we are creme de la creme.
See, I'm a Norm. She's a Crip.
Yeah.
I normally don't hang out with Crips.
No, we don't hang out with Norms.
We're here to tell you, normal is a temporary state. We're here to tell you.
I've had a lot of times when I've been, judged by people before they even knew me. People, they don't do that here.
We do really challenging work that is recognized by the arts community. We do 3 full stage performances a year that are original, and we tour.
And the great thing about Interact is that none of the staff is trained in disabilities. We're all artists, and so it's a really sort of unique approach.
Sit up and maybe even take a chance on love.
Well, it's also fun to learn new things about yourself, things that you didn't think you could ever do before. Playing instruments, sing a completely different character, be a completely opposite of what you really are.
I love being in the show, and I'm very good playing a good Crip in the show.
We sing, we dance. The actors dance and the singers act.
Between the Worlds is about 2 young people, one that has a disability and one that has a hidden disability, like Asperger's syndrome. And they are trying to have a relationship, but they're 2 groups, the Crips and the Norms, are kind of not wanting them to be together.
I'm Amy, and my role is Isabella. And she's 18, she's very young. And one of the things that she's sick of is her mum telling her what dress to wear.
Now, let me see you in that dress I made for you. Mom, I'm not 80, I'm 18 now.
I think another thing that's fun about this show is the collaboration with the gals from Australia.
I first came across Interact's work I think it was about August 2001 up in Vancouver.
And she said, this is exciting work. I just really want to be a part of, I want to work with you.
We decided after that we'd join forces and write a show together. We called it Between the Worlds, and it became a full-blown tragic love story.
I call you Isabella because Bella means beautiful, and I think that suits you.
My name is Sam Faideen, and I play the role of Oliver. And he's a lot like me. He looks normal, but he knows he's different.
Always lived between the worlds.
Do we work too hard sometimes?
Definitely not.
Okay.
I like to push myself to a full extreme.
When you work on a play and you're just in rehearsal and half the people have scripts and nobody's in costume and we're under fluorescent light and everybody's yelling at each other and it's all chaos, it's hard to see it be a show.
I am Tracy Sletton. I am playing the mother of all imperfection. And I'm supposed to give birth to half the universe for those people who are not, quote unquote, normal. I refuse to use the word cripple. I just don't like it. I never did.
Want me to be me.
I just remember the first day that the band came in to our rehearsal, and the songs sounded like they were supposed to sound, and there was just this amazing energy in the room of, wow, look, this play is going to be real.
But I'm going to read the review from Quentin Skinner City Pages. It's a nifty trick to hijack Wex's story with such subversive aplomb. And positively nervy not to deliver a happy ending when the dust settles.
Interesting show, I think, and very brave because it draws performances from these young actors and singers with a disability that takes you to a very deep place that I think everybody can identify with, regardless of whether you have a disability or not. It's about finding commonalities between people that go beyond race, colour, socioeconomic background, education, disability.
You probably agree with me that there's a lot of different types of folks that interact. And that adds to the fun, yeah.
There's different spices in the soup, and we're really making it very interesting, and we're spicing it up.
Well, thus wraps another episode of Access to Art here from the YWCA Midtown. Remember to watch us every Tuesday night, 8:30 on MTN Channel 17. Go out, support the arts, support the craftspeople. The amount of stuff you can get at just this location ranges from handmade jewelry and purses to tie-dye. There's a drummer here, and you can participate in all kinds of activities all the time around town. You benefit yourself, your family, and your entire community by getting involved in the arts. Thanks a lot for watching. Wow, it's so far out. There's tie-dye and everything, man. And I just met this really cool chick who makes the tie-dye. What's your favorite Grateful Dead album? You bring those people to clubs, they do not order a drink. They ask for water. And this was years ago. We had to call it Bull Run water. It was tap water, but we couldn't sell them anything. And back then you didn't pay for water. There wasn't the evil of bottled water. So we had to take it from the tap and charge them Bull Run, the name of the reservoir, 75 cents, or we couldn't have made money on the Brazilian jazz crowd. And I'm still bitter about that. Girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes,